E 9.5. Copacabana Bus Lines uses the units of activity method in depreciating its buses. One bus was purchased on January 1st, 2020 at a cost of 155,000 reais. Over its 4-year useful life, the bus is expected to be driven 100,000 miles. Residual value is expected to be 15,000 reais. Instructions: compute the depreciable cost per unit. Well, taking a look here, you see that we have the 5-year useful life, we have how many miles it can run, we have residual value. Just by looking at these numbers, we know that Copacabana Bus Line uses the units of activity method, even though they said it here. But even if they didn't say, due to the fact that they have the amount of units that can be used, in this case is miles, we know that they're using the units of activity method. So we're gonna need the formula for that one, right? So the formula for the units of activity depreciation method, it is the original cost minus the salvage value, and you might also see it written as residual value. I think, yeah, in this case they wrote residual value. And then we're gonna divide that by the total units usable. So it can be miles, it can be kilometers, it can be whatever unit that you're using, because you're going to have different kinds of things, right? In this case, we're talking about buses, but we could be talking about cars, about machines, I don't know. So it is the total units usable for that machine, car, whatever, multiplied by the number of units actually used in that particular year or during the whole process. Well, this is the formula for the units of activity depreciation. But if you take a look at letter A, you're going to see that they're not asking for the depreciation expense. If you use this formula, the whole formula, you're going to get a depreciation expense. But they're not asking that. They're asking the depreciable cost per unit. And part of this formula actually gives us this part over here. If we just calculate this part over here, we actually get the depreciable cost per unit. And what does that mean? That means that per unit that I use, in this case, per mile that I run, I would be spending a specific amount of reais, this currency, okay? All right, so let's take a look at the values that we have. The original cost was 155,000 reais minus the residual value or salvage value. It is the same thing, 15,000 reais, divided by the total units that can be used. In this case, we would have 100,000 miles. And that gives us 1.3 reais per unit. This currency that I'm talking about is this one, okay? It's Brazilian currency. Anyways, this is the depreciable cost per unit. If you were to move on and multiply this number, the depreciable cost, by the number of units used, you would have the depreciation expense, but this is not what they're asking us in letter A. Let's see what B says. Prepare a depreciation schedule assuming that actual millage was in 2020 27,000, and then 32,000, 24,000, and 17,000. Every time they ask us to do a depreciation schedule, what they actually want us to do is to prepare a table with all of the information that we need. In my case, I like to have a table with 7 spots, and you're gonna understand why. The first one is always going to be the year, so I always have the column for year. And then over here, I have 6 more, so I divide it into half, and then I do a third of each part and push it down. And the same thing for the other one, just so I would have 7 in total. Yeah. So the first thing that we would need to know are the units used, right? Just like they said, 2020, 21, 22, and 23, we had different units that were used. The amount was different. So the units used, and then you would have the depreciable cost, which is the value that we actually just calculated. So in this case, this column over here is not going to change, correct? Then we would have the depreciation expense. Remember that I told you that if you actually complete the full formula, you put this number times the number of units, you get the expense, right? The depreciation expense. This is this column over here. And then we would have the accumulated depreciation, which is all of the depreciation that you would have so far, all of them added together. Then you would have the beginning book value of whatever you're dealing with, in this case the beginning book value of the buses, and the ending book value of these buses. Okay, all right, now the table is complete. We can just fill in the information. So the first year that we have is 2020, and we used 27,000 miles. Then on 2021 we used 32,000. 22 we used 24,000, and we're supposed to have another column over here for 23, which we used 17,000. It's a little bit time consuming, I know, but just make sure that you're organized and you'll be able to calculate everything. Okay, so as I said, the depreciable cost is just this part over here, right? So that means that this thing is not going to change, because the cost not going to change, the salvage value is not going to change, and the total units used is not going to change. So this is why we're just going to repeat the same cost for all of them, because it really doesn't change. In this case, it is 1.3 real. Okay, and remember, right, multiplying this 1.3 by the number of units, we get what? The expense, right? But here we have different numbers of units, so we're going to do each one at a time. Okay, so let's start. For the first one, we're going to have 27,000 times 1.3 real. That is 3,500. Okay, accumulated depreciation is the total depreciation that you had until now. Since we just have one, it's just the same thing, right? And the beginning book value, in this case, this is just the beginning, like right at the beginning, before depreciating anything. So this would be the cost, right? In this case, our cost was 155,000. So we're gonna put this figure here. The ending book value is going to be our beginning book value minus the depreciation expense. Here you have to be very careful, because this accumulated depreciation, moving on, we are going to be adding up all of the depreciation expenses from this column. So if you subtract the beginning book value from the accumulated depreciation expense, it has to be wrong. Why is that? Because this one is for the year 2020, so it has to be the depreciation minus the year 2020. Like the 2021 would be the depreciation minus the year 2020. Actually, for this one, it's just minus this one, right? But as you move on, you would be depreciating them according to the year that you are. And this is why it would be wrong if you depreciate the accumulated depreciation. For this one, it's just the same, so you wouldn't have any problem. But moving on, you're going to see that the numbers are different. Anyways, okay, that is 109,900. Okay. The ending book value of 2020, it is the beginning book value of 2021, right? So I recommend you to just write this one here right away. Okay, now let's see how much is the depreciation expense of 2021. That is 41,600. Okay, here accumulated depreciation, right? Accumulated, how much we have accumulated until 2021? Well, we have to add 2020 plus 2021, right? In this case, actually, it's over here because this number is the same, but it would be this plus this. Okay, that is 76,700. Okay, and again, remember, this is the beginning book value minus the depreciation of the same year, right? This year, this is the accumulated. You have to minus 41,600. and that gives us 68,300. Same thing, right? Ending book value equals the beginning book value of the following year. Okay, 25,000. I'm doing this part over here. Times 1.3 real. That is 31,200. Okay, accumulated depreciation, right? So you can just either you can add all of these together, or you can just add this plus this, right? Because this number is just this plus this. So you can either add everything together again, or just do this plus this. Okay, that is 107,900. Okay, and the ending book value, right? So you would have the beginning book value minus the depreciation of that year. In this case, is year 2022. That is 37,100. Same thing, right? Equals the beginning book value of the next year. Okay, and then figuring out the expense of the year 2023. How much is that? That is 22,100. Accumulated depreciation, same thing, this plus this, or all of this together. Let's see, how much is that? That is 130,000. And the beginning book value minus the depreciation expense of that year. And that would be 15,000. And you see like how you can check if you did this right. This is 15,000, right? Which means that after depreciating for all of these 4 years, you're supposed to, like, your bus is supposed to still be worth 15,000. This is like the ending value. But what is an ending value? It's a salvage value, right? It's a residual value. And if we take a look at the exercise, they said the residual value is expected to be 15,000 reais. So this is correct.